Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have a very spooky Becca's Bookopoly round 10. So first off, if you're new here and this is the first Bookopoly video that you are seeing from me, Becca's Bookopoly is the way that I pick my monthly TBR. It's a whole board game that we play, and if you are unfamiliar with the rules, I will link the full Bookopoly playlist up here where you will find all of the rules and a full tour of the board in the first video. Secondly, I feel like I'm going to have to disclose that there isn't actually going to be anything too spooky about October's Bookopoly, aside from the fact that I'm wearing cat ears and I have a whole list of spooky books I would like to read in October, but whether Bookopoly allows me to is a whole other question. So before we get started, I would just like to give a little shout out to my good friend Jade from January Reads. You may be familiar with her, because I have it on very good authority that the same day that this Bookopoly TBR video is going up, Jade will be posting the first video in her brand new TBR series called TBR Pursuit, which, as you can imagine, is inspired by the board game Trivial Pursuit. I'm very excited to see this video. I have seen the board already and Jade has kind of been giving me information as she has been going through her planning process for this. It has been a long time in the works, so I'm so excited to see it, and I know that Jade is really excited to launch it as well. But if you guys are a fan of Bookopoly, or if you're a fan of the Wheel of TBR, I have a pretty good feeling that you will also be enjoying TBR Pursuit. So if the video is already up at the time that you are watching this, I will have a link to it in my description box, but if not, I will just put a link to Jade's channel, as I know that it will be coming very soon. So aside from the fact that I have a whole list of spooky books that I would like to read in October if Bookopoly allows me to read them, I do feel like I have to disclose that I am probably going to fail October's Bookopoly. I'm going to give it the good old college try, but I don't think I'm going to manage it regardless of how many books are going to be on this TBR. And the reason for that is that I will be moving on the 11th of October. I have bought a house, so it is very possible, depending on how I can arrange my bookshelves in the new house, that this will be the last Bookopoly video that you see that looks like this, but it will 100% be the last Bookopoly video in this location, which is sad for me. You guys probably won't mind too much, but it's sad for me. So as I am moving, aside from spooky books, I kind of want to take it easy. I want Bookopoly to be kind to me. I don't want a 10-book TBR because I just can't do it. I need to pack and unpack and paint and all of that stuff. But as you guys know, Bookopoly does not really care much for what I want, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. And now that that is out of the way, as usual, I will be showing you last month's Bookopoly TBR to see whether I did indeed manage to read all of those books. So this was my TBR for September. We had Obsidio by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, which was to read a sci-fi. A Feast of Crows by George R.R. Martin, which was an adult fantasy. Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff, which was another adult fantasy. Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which was a young adult fantasy. And then two books that are missing from here. We had Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, and that was to read a library book. And then we also had Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller, and that one was for the challenge to read a contemporary. Now, out of those 6 books, I have read the 2 that are not present here, and I have also read Dark Dawn. I'm currently just over halfway through A Feast for Crows, and I have not started Crooked Kingdom or Obsidio. Now, as I am filming this, there are a few days left of the month, and I will be starting Crooked Kingdom. However, I would love to, and I'm really sad that I did not manage to get to Obsidio, but I am like 99% sure that in the month of September I will not manage to even start Obsidio. And you know what that means, guys. We need to pick a punishment book. So if you remember from August's Bookopoly, when I failed to read any of the books on my TBR, I have to read a punishment book. A couple of months ago, I asked Twitter for recommendations of books that they would not even recommend that their enemies read, and I ended up with this little pot of bad books. There are currently 49 books in here. The books in here are very subjective, obviously, so there are books in here that I'm very excited to read, but other people thought were absolutely terrible. But without further ado, let's see what my punishment book for October is going to be. This nice easy October TBR I wanted is already going wrong, isn't it? Okay, so let's get right down to the bottom. I think I'll have this one. Can you guys read that? Because I can't. Is this? Oh no. Oh god damn. We have, I don't know if you can read that, but I'm pretty sure that that is Gone Girl. So my punishment book for not finishing September's Bookopoly is going to be Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Thankfully, kind of thankfully, it is a book that I already own. However, this is a book that is also on my video that is called These Books Will Destruct in 12 Months, which is a list of books that I plan on unhauling if I have not gotten to them in 12 months. Gone Girl is... this is an adult thriller, and a lot of people really love this book. However, I do believe that at the time that this was released, the plot twist was really shocking, but as time has gone on and that plot twist has been adopted into other novels, it's not as good as it would have been if you had read it at the time. Now, my own personal aversion to reading this book is because I had a friend who is one of those people who doesn't read often, but when she does, she will go through a period of like a month where she'll read like 7 books a week. So she's a very fast reader when she does read, and it took her 6 months to read this book, and I don't think she even managed to finish it. I've heard that the writing style is quite particular. It's just wholly unappealing to me. I only have it because a lot of people love it, and it was probably going to be on hold pretty soon. You guys are probably excited about this because I know there are a lot of Gone Girl lovers out there. I am not too excited, but it is my punishment book, and so this will be the first book I'm starting in October. If this holds me back for the rest of the month, I will not be happy. And now that the punishment is out of the way, let us get into our first roll of October. So last month we finished on adult fantasy. You will have to excuse this dice. I have misplaced the one that matches this one, but hopefully you can see this one okay. But we'll get into our first roll. 5, which is a science fiction. So for roll number 1, we landed on science fiction, and I would love to put Obsidio back on this TBR, but as I mentioned, I do have that list of spooky books that I would like to get to in October, one of which is a sci-fi, and that one is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So this is a book that I received in the August Illumicrate, and it has been receiving a lot of hype, especially on Twitter. I know Rhiannon from Crescent Moon Reads really loves this one. This is one that is quite a blend of genres. It does have quite a lot of fantasy elements in here, I believe, but it is predominantly set in space, so I would say it is overall a science fiction. I do not know too much about the storyline of this. I do know that there are houses here, and our main character is Gideon, who is of the 9th house. I got some character cards in with my Illumicrate that I'm going to be referencing while I'm reading this, so that I have like information about each house. But aside from that, I don't really know anything about the plot or the world of this. I just know that this is a book set in space, and it also has lesbian necromancers. It could also have trans rep in here. I feel like I have heard that, although don't quote me on it and let me know if I'm right or wrong in the comments. But I'm definitely excited to be reading this one, as I think it's going to be a little bit dark. I mean, look at that cover. And there are also a lot of people who are really loving this book at the moment. Roll number 2. A double 5, which is historical fiction. Roll number 2, we landed on historical fiction, which, as you may be able to tell because it is the brown space, is my least favourite genre that is on all of this board. I am running out of historical fictions, but in the name of Halloween and October and all things spooky, I'm going to be bending this slightly and taking the definition of historical fiction to mean a book that has been written in a past setting, but was written in a more contemporary time than it was set, if that makes sense. That does sound a little bit complicated, so I'll just show you the book, and it is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Gavin kindly gifted me this book. I've been wanting to read it forever, but obviously October is the perfect time for this. This is predominantly a horror book, but I do believe it has some comedic elements, and the reason I'm using it for historical fiction is because it is set in the 80s, as you may be able to tell from the VHS style cover. And while I don't know too much about the exact plot of this, I do feel like it is pretty self-explanatory. We have our main character and her best friend becomes possessed, and I assume that they are going to perform an exorcism. Roll number 3. 9, which is a viewer recommendation. Oh, so roll number 3, we landed on viewer recommendation, which is a little bit of a wild card. When we land on this space, we go to a video that I made last December, which was my entire owned TBR. And in the comments of that video, I asked people to suggest the books that they wanted me to read that I do currently own. Now, obviously that video was nearly a year ago now, so I own a lot of different books, but in December, I will be doing another video that replaces it, as it is a yearly thing on my channel. channel. So the way that we are going to do this is I am going to come around to the other side of the camera so that you can see my phone, and we are going to use a random comment generator to pick a comment from that video, and that will be the book that I'm going to read in October. The challenges like this make me really damn nervous. So this is the video in question. I'm just going to get the link for it. Here I have just a random standard comment picker. So we will paste the URL in and get comments. There's 47 comments, and let's pick a random one. Okay, so the winner is Carolyn Marie Reeds. Rebecca, To Kill a Mockingbird. Do I own To Kill a Mockingbird? Illuminate, Fangirl, and The Book Thief are some of my favourites on your TBR. Okay, so of the 5 books that Carolyn Marie recommended that I read, I have read 2 of them, which is Rebecca and Illuminate. I read both of those this year, but the other 3 I have not read, and those are To Kill a Mockingbird, which I didn't even realise I owned, Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. Now, the last time I did this challenge, there was only 1 book in the comments, but because there's 3 this time, and I don't really think I have a preference over which one of these I'm going to read, I'm going to put a poll up in the cards with these 3 books in, and I'm going to let you guys decide which one of these I'm going to read. These are 3 very popular books, so I'm very interested to see what you guys pick. I will probably leave the poll without checking it up until I get to picking up this book. I do tend to read my Bookopoly books in order, and we will see which one you guys have decided that I'm going to read. So just for context, in case you don't know what each of these books are about, The Book Thief is I'm not really sure what age category it's placed into, because I'm pretty sure it's one of those books that's sold across all age ranges, but this follows a young girl in World War II, and I believe that she is trying to save the books before the Nazis burn them, and this book is narrated by Death. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell is a young adult contemporary story. I think it's more new adult really, because our main character is in college, but it is about a girl who has a twin sister, and they are both going to college. However, they are choosing to live very different college lifestyles. The main character's sister has thrown herself into the social aspects of college, but the main character likes to write fan fiction, and she's feeling very left behind by her sister and overwhelmed by the college experience. Then we have To Kill a Mockingbird, which you can't see because of the white balance on my video, but we have To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Gonna make myself brighter again. Hello. And I don't know too much about this, but I know it's a book that a lot of people love. It is a classic, and it follows, I think it follows the trial of a black man who has been accused of raping a young girl in the 1930s. I'm assuming he's wrongfully accused, but I'm not sure because I haven't read it. So these are the 3 books that you will be voting on this month, and I'm excited and scared to see which one you're going to pick. Roll number 4, 6, which is a mystery or a thriller. So role number 4 is a mystery or a thriller, which is kind of perfect for the spooky season. And for this, I'm actually going to be reading a book that I don't have yet, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I do have this book on pre-order. I am very excited for its release. I do like Leigh Bardugo's young adult books. I think her writing is very good, but I definitely think that she is an author who has a lot of potential to write really great adult books. So I've been excited for Ninth House for a very long time. As well as this, the day before I'm filming this video, I did book tickets to go and see Leigh Bardugo in Leeds for her Ninth House tour. So this is definitely a book that I want to read before I go to that signing at the end of the month. Now, I don't really know what this is about. I know that it deals with some very dark themes, and it is definitely an adult book. I have heard on Twitter that there is child rape in here, as well as a lot of other pretty atrocious stuff. As for the plot, I'm not too sure, but I do know it has a dark academia setting. It's kind of an urban fantasy in that it takes place in a contemporary setting, but there are some supernatural or paranormal elements, I believe, and there is a mystery aspect in here as well. So this is another book that is quite a blend of genres, but I do think that there is definitely a mystery thriller aspect present there. Roll number 5, 9, which is a book set in a dystopian world. So for the dystopian challenge, I will be reading The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This will be a reread for me, and once again, this is another book that is a blend of genres. This has a dystopian, utopian kind of setting, but it also has a lot of science fiction elements and a little bit of fantasy in there as well. The reason that I'm rereading this book this month is because my good friend Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction is hosting a read-along for the entire Bone Season series, as the 4th book in the series is due to be released early next year. This has quite a complex plot, but But we do follow our main character Paige, who is a psychic in a world where to be a psychic is a bad thing. She's also quite a powerful psychic, and there are psychic gangs, as everybody who has these powers has kind of been driven underground. They have banded together into criminal gangs in order to survive. The setting of this is very much 1984-esque, where the government is always watching you, and one day Paige is caught using her psychic abilities and she gets taken away to this place that I'm not going to talk about because it was something that came completely out of left field when I read this for the first time. Regardless, I really loved this series the first time I read it. I'm excited to see what I think about it now, as in the UK this series is sold as adult. I do believe it's young adult in the US, but at the time that I read the series for the first time, it was more complex than things I was used to reading, but I was surprised by how much I loved it, and I'm definitely very excited to revisit this world, as I'm definitely going to need a refresher before book 4. And what will hopefully be our final roll is not our final roll because I rolled a double 4. Ooh, a community shelf, okay. And this month's community shelf is Ryan's recommendation. For roll number 5, we got our second double because I can't get an easy TBR when I need it, can I? I can't. It's not possible. I'm dying inside. We got a community shelf card, and this one was Ryan's recommendation. If you guys are unaware, Ryan is my very best in real life friend. We have been friends for nearly 10 years now, and when I made my Bookopoly board way back in December, he insisted that I put a card in here where he would be able to recommend me a book. So I have messaged him and asked for his recommendation, and he has recommended that I read An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. So I know that this is a very popular young adult fantasy series, although I don't know too much about it, but it is one that I was very excited to get to when it was released, and then as the years have gone on, I've just kind of forgotten about it a little bit. The little that I do know about this plot is that it follows a girl whose brother is kidnapped, I believe. So she goes undercover into a military academy to try and get her brother back, and while she's there she meets a soldier, and the soldier doesn't want to be a soldier. That's all I know. It has a POC main character. I know that, and that is the limit of my knowledge on this book so far. And once again, what will hopefully be our final roll, 9. Another community shelf. Okay, so this one is oldest book on my Goodreads TBR. Oh no. And for my last roll, we got another community shelf card. This is weird because cards don't come up often, and we've had 2 in a row. But this one is to read the oldest book on my Goodreads TBR. So as we did for the viewer recommendation prompt, I will be coming around to the other side of the camera and we will be finding out what the oldest book on my Goodreads TBR is. I don't clean out my Goodreads TBR for reasons like this. So the oldest book on my Goodreads TBR is going to have been there since, I'm going to say, 2014. Why couldn't it be the most recent thing on my Goodreads TBR? Why? Okay, so here is my Goodreads app. I'm going to sort my want to read by date added. The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen, added on the 27th of July 2014. So Goodreads has spoken, and The Truth About Forever is my oldest book on my Goodreads TBR. Now, I don't know what this is about. I am a huge fan of Sarah Dessen, and I have been since I was 13 or 14 when I read this lullaby, so I have been collecting her books from charity shops. I do intend to read them all eventually, but I don't really look at what they're about because I just like the author. So I did just have a glance at the synopsis on this, and it follows main character who is dealing with the death of her father, and she meets the boy, and it's probably a romance because that's what Sarah Dessen writes. And that is pretty much all I have to say about this one. So that is it for the Bookopoly portion of this TBR. That is 8 books. Yeah, including the punishment book, that is 8 books. So I'm screaming inside. Like I said, there is a big chance that I won't get to all of these. I'm going to try. I'm not participating in any readathons in October, so all of the books that I'm going to be reading are going to be exclusively from this TBR video. video. But just before I close off this video, I would like to show you just a couple more books I do plan on reading this month. I know I already have a lot, but these are for book clubs or buddy reads, etc. that I am kind of tied into and obligated to complete. So the first one of these is A Dance with Dragons Part 2, Dreams and Dust by George R.R. Martin. This is the fifth book, or the first half of the fifth book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, which is the series of books that Game of Thrones is based on. As you guys may know, I am hosting a read along for this entire series. We are going into the last published book in the series so far. The live show for this is likely to be at the end of November, and if you are watching this on the day that this goes up, shortly after this is published, we will be having the live show for A Feast for Crows on my channel, just in case you would like to catch that one. As this book is in 2 parts and I have to read both of them by the end of November, it is kind of important that I do get to this month, and it does very much take me a while to read Game of Thrones books. I tend to read 50 pages per day, so I think I'm just going to start this right at the beginning of October and just work my way through it throughout the month. And then the last book on this TBR is going to be The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. I am buddy reading this with Jade from JD Ray Reads. We are buddy reading the entire Grishaverse together. We have just, well, we should have just finished Crooked Kingdom in September. Obviously, you guys know I haven't started it yet, but I will start it before the end of September. As I am moving in October, we have decided to read The Language of Thorns instead of King of Scars, as it should be a little bit easier to get through as it is only short. And this is a collection of fairy tales set in the Grisha world. As far as I'm aware, there are 6 stories in here, and 3 are set in the Ravka side of the Grisha world, and 3 are set in the Ketterdam side. But this should be just a nice little collection of short stories. I believe that this also stands as a series of modern fairy tales, so you could read this if you haven't read the Grishaverse at all. But as I am familiar with the world, I am quite interested in reading this to see what Leigh Bardugo has done and how she's built the folklore set in these worlds. And also it should be quite a nice little easy read for October. And while it's not necessarily spooky, although I believe a couple of them are quite dark, personally I find that autumn is one of the best times to read books like this anyway. But that is it for my Bookopoly TBR. It is a big one. It's a big one. I'm worried, I'm scared, but we're gonna at least try. Even if we're not gonna do it, we are going to at least try. And please remember that you can also follow along with my reading vlogs, where I always update you with where I'm up to in my Bookopoly TBR. And my reading vlogs are going to have quite a bit of fun content in going forward for the next month, because I'm going to be packing and moving and painting and stuff, so you'll get like a house tour and all of that kind of stuff, which should be pretty fun. Please let me know in the comments which of these books you are most excited for me to read. Please also don't forget to vote on that poll to decide which of the 3 books that I showed you earlier I will be reading. And also please don't forget to go and check out Jade's Trivial Pursuit inspired TBR video idea. I'm very excited to see it. I love TBR games, and I'm just so excited for this one. I know that Jade has been working on it for a while, and she's been like feeding me little bits of information as she's been building it, so I'm very excited to see how it has turned out. But that is about it for this video. Please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you'll find links to my Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as links to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and 10% off discount code. That's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.